Thanks. And I'm very pleased to have with us today the Resident and Humanitarian Coordinator for Sudan, Clementine Nkweta-Salami. And she's here to provide you with an update on the humanitarian situation in the country. You will recall the statement the Secretary General issued yesterday, particularly about the situation in El-Fasher, and now we'll get some more details. Ms. Nkweta-Salami, thank you very much for coming. The floor is yours.
Okay, good afternoon. Thank you very much. When I was last in this room, I warned that Sudan was facing a humanitarian tragedy that was growing bleaker by the day. By all measures, the situation today is infinitely worse. After more than a year of conflict, the people of Sudan are trapped in an inferno of brutal violence. Famine is closing in. Diseases are closing in. The fighting is closing in. And there's no end in sight. I want to start with the situation in El-Fasher, the capital of North Darfur, where hostilities have been escalating, putting an entire city in peril. Clashes over the weekend reportedly caused dozens of civilian casualties. Many more were displaced, most seeking safety in the southern part of the city. If the parties do not pull back from the brink, this will have devastating consequences for the 800,000 civilians in El-Fasher. Right now, the humanitarian assistance they rely on can't get through. More than a dozen trucks carrying health, nutrition, and other critical supplies for more than 120,000 people have been trying to reach the city for weeks. They set out from Port Sudan on the 3rd of April and still can't reach El-Fasher due to insecurity and delays in getting clearances at checkpoints. The fighting in El-Fasher is another tragic example of this conflict's grotesque impact on civilians. Over the past year, thousands of lives have been lost. Communities and families have been torn apart. Homes and civilian infrastructure have been destroyed. Khartoum, the beating heart of Sudan, has been decimated. No one and nothing has been spared. Horrific atrocities are being committed with reckless abandon. Reports of rape, torture, and ethnically motivated violence are streaming in. Indiscriminate attacks are killing civilians, including young children. Sudan is now today the world's largest displacement crisis. Almost 9 million people have been forced to flee to other parts of Sudan or neighboring countries. Most of the population lacks access to health care. An entire generation of children is missing out on education. Famine is on the horizon, threatening millions of lives. And the window to act is closing fast. We have just 6 weeks before the lean season sets in, when food becomes less available and more expensive. This coincides with 2 other deadlines: the start of the rainy season, when reaching people in need becomes even more difficult, and the end of the planting season, which could fail if we aren't able to procure and deliver seeds for farmers. In short, the people of Sudan are in the path of a perfect storm that is growing more lethal by the day. This crisis follows years of struggle by the Sudanese people to have a voice of their own. The revolution was led by the women, and many of them find themselves in dire conditions. I continue to be inspired by the resilience of women in Sudan that were active in the economy before, in all parts of Sudanese society, and continue to try to make a living despite the odds, the gender-based violence, the exploitation, and abuse. They are part of the solution to bringing the economy back on track. They are key agents to prevent further economic distress, to bring about solutions, to keep the economy of Sudan moving. As the UN continues its humanitarian efforts in Sudan, it is also looking at helping make sure we sustain the economy in the long run. Priority interventions are focused on facilitating livelihood opportunities, finding solutions for people who had to leave their homes, the displaced people, and the communities hosting them, making sure everyone is safe from rights violations and conflicts, and preventing additional conflict-related risks. These priorities are being adapted to the context of violence, conflict, and fragility in Sudan. Following the departure of UNITAMS, the UN flag continued flying high in Sudan outside my office. We are on the ground. We are staying and delivering for the people of Sudan. The Secretary General's personal envoy is working around the clock to bring all parties around the table to silence the guns. When that is achieved, the UN is ready to scale up and support recovery and reconstruction. Until then, the humanitarian community needs the following. Firstly, unfettered access to reach people in need wherever they are. Right now, aid organizations face unacceptable obstacles at every turn. We need the parties to the conflict to facilitate deliveries via all necessary routes, both across battle lines and across borders. Secondly, we need more funding and fast. The Sudan humanitarian appeal is just 12% funded, 12%. Without more resources, we won't be able to scale up in time to stave off famine and further deprivation. At the same time, we need funds and partnerships to strengthen the resilience of conflict-affected communities and the prevention of further conflict, the prevention of sexual and gender-based violence, including scaling up support to victims, supporting the opening of schools and out-of-school children, and providing basic health, water, and sanitation services delivery. And finally, and most of all, we need more engagement to end this war. It is time to hold the parties to the conflict and the world accountable. For people all over Sudan, in El-Fasher, Khartoum, Al Jazeera, Kordofan, Darfur, and elsewhere, what they need most is an end to all this senseless violence. The international community cannot stand by as this crisis spirals out of control, as the noose of this conflict tightens its stranglehold on the civilian population. It is time for increased advocacy, increased attention, and increased resources. Time is running out. We need action now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that briefing. And I'll now open up the floor for questions. First question goes to Edie.
Thank you very much for doing this briefing on behalf of the United Nations Correspondents Association. Welcome. And you're always welcome back here. I have a couple of questions and a follow-up. First of all, in terms of famine, is any food getting in anywhere? I mean, you said that this convoy's been unable to get to El-Fasher since April 3rd. Is famine being staved off anywhere else? Second, is the ethnic cleansing that's been reported, including involving the Masalit, still taking place? And third, could you give us the figures? You said the the numbers. The humanitarian appeal is 12% funded. What's the appeal, and how much is it in dollars that you've gotten? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your warm welcome, and thank you also for your questions. We continue to struggle in relation to our access needs in terms of being able to move humanitarian supplies both across lines and across borders. Food gets in sporadically. We presently have food across the border that we want to bring in, particularly to the Darfurs, and we have food in Port Sudan that we are still trying to take across to the Darfurs, particularly given the assessments that have been done and our concerns about food insecurity in that part of the country. Presently, as you know, the fighting intensified as of, I would say, Friday, Saturday. So we aren't present in Darfur in terms of international presence. We still have some national staff on the ground, and it's difficult for us to move the convoys throughout Darfur. Food is getting into the east, but I should just say that in everything we do, I would say our key challenges in Sudan are as follows: access, attention, and resources. We need an opening of all the cross-border points. We need facilitation of the movement of trucks if we are going to address this hunger crisis. In relation to the ethnic cleansing, I don't have any information, bearing in mind that we are in Sudan. I am in Sudan. The reports that we got about ethnic cleansing were essentially for those who were able to cross the border into Chad. So they would be able to tell us perhaps a bit more what is happening on the basis of people who are leaving some of these areas where this has been a problem. And what we are seeing are human rights violations. I don't know if legally it is ethnic cleansing as such, but they're egregious violations, and some of them are ethnically based. In terms of our overall humanitarian response plan, the overall plan, the appeal is for $2.7 billion US.
Amelie?
Thanks. Amélie Botelier from AFP News Agency. I have two questions. First, I mean, you mentioned the fighting that's erupted over the weekend in El-Fasher. Do you know what's going on right now? I mean, since the weekend in El-Fasher. And my second question about the aid. I mean, you said clearly it's difficult to cross. To have the trucks going across Sudan from Port Sudan to El-Fasher. Is there any way you could come from Chad, which is really closer? I mean, there were some diplomats mentioning the possibility of some kind of cross-border mechanism. Do you think that would help?
Thank you very much for your question. Just to say that in terms of what is going on now, I knew as of yesterday that there are clashes. We are trying to support those in El-Fasher in terms of trying to bring in some medical supplies. We do have trucks that are blocked inside the country, and we're trying to get them across where we have blockages so that they can actually move into El-Fasher and provide what is important medical supplies. So let me just say security is an impediment, but also there are road blockages, road checkpoints that prevent us from moving forward. I cannot tell you the extent of the fighting today, but just to say that our appeal for a de-escalation for the parties that are actually engaged to stand back to prevent what will be a catastrophic impact on the civilian population. It's a highly dense city. Our appeals continue, and we hope that these appeals will be heeded. But given what happened over the weekend, that has yet to happen. In terms of the cross-border from Chad, in February, we were told by the authorities that we could no longer use the Adre crossing point, and we were asked to use the Tine crossing point, which is further north. The challenges there are we can't get directly into Western Darfur, which is where we have been accessing for quite some time. It's a long route. We have cold chain challenges, and it takes time, and the ability to move volumes, given the circuitous and difficult route, is presenting significant challenges. We have requested, and we continue to appeal, there is advocacy at all levels inside the UN as well as outside to get the authorities to reopen this border entry point so we can access not only Western Darfur, Central Darfur, but South Darfur as well.
Thanks. Maggie?
Hello, thank you. I'm Margaret Bashir with Voice of America. If you could put it into numbers maybe for us, how many people are at immediate risk of famine in Darfur and then maybe across Sudan? Because I feel like we have two separate stories sort of going at the moment because of El-Fasher and then the bigger story of all Sudan. And I know El-Fasher is a long-time humanitarian hub. How have the recent clashes affected your ability to reach warehouses and any pre-positioned stocks you have there for the people who are left in the city that are working, your staff? And just while you're here in New York, who are you meeting with? The Sudanese government has written at least two letters now in the last few weeks to the Security Council complaining about arms coming in from other countries, particularly the United Arab Emirates. Have you met with the UAE mission while you're here? Have you tried to talk to anybody about trying to silence the guns on the ground to make the aid work happen? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. In relation to your question on the numbers in Darfur, allow me to come back to you on that so I give you the specifics. In relation to the pre-positioned stock, Darfur was one of those cities in which we had a significant hub, in which we had significant supplies, and the I would say the normal course of our operations prior to the conflict would have been to pre-position supplies in Darfur in anticipation of the rains. Those supplies were looted. We've never had the ability to restock at the same level. Accessing particularly North Darfur has been a big challenge for us since the beginning of this conflict. Therefore, we don't have stocks to draw from. What our request to the authorities in relation to granting us access now, and I did say the clock is ticking and time is running out, is that we are operating against the backdrop of an imminent rainy season. June, July, the roads will become unpassable. And what we're trying to do is to make sure we can pre-position. And the stocks here are not only food, it's water, it's nutritional supplies, it's water and sanitation equipment, wash equipment as well. That will allow us address the needs of the population in an integrated manner. So do we have stocks? No. Do we need to get stocks in as quickly as possible? It's an imperative.
About the rainy season, June to July, so in your experience, does that mean the fighting will slow? Did it slow last year during this time? Or if you can't get through, I'm assuming maybe the fighters can't get to each other in a way. So does it calm the fighting a bit or no?
I don't think I can give you an accurate picture, but in Darfur, they are present there already. El-Fasher is surrounded, it's anyone's guess how far they have to move beyond that. But there has been a build-up of fighters for quite some time. I would imagine, if we're looking at other crisis situations, in my experience, is that there might be a lull during the rainy season. But I've never been in Darfur during the rain, so I can't accurately speak as to what it means in terms of the roads. Here, I've had the opportunity to meet with some of our key donors. I will not be meeting with the UAE. I will be meeting mainly with our donors this time. I met with them the last time I was here, and I've traveled since the crisis began to Saudi to meet with the Saudis there.
Deji?
Hi, Xu Deji with China Central Television. You just mentioned that a convoy from Port Sudan left Port Sudan on on 3rd of April. What's the original estimation from you of the time that the travel time, if everything went smoothly? And what are those things in that convoy? Medicals you just mentioned. What about other things? And how much time can those deliveries support El-Fasher or Darfur people?
We have to be able to support the Darfur, the El-Fasher people, we need to send in, it's a convoy of trucks, many trucks. We're talking about, over 100 trucks, all carrying supplies that are required. We need to have, I would say, a steady pipeline that allows us to move in at this point in time so that we can restock. I can't give you numbers in terms of trucks and tonnage, but we have a population of about 800,000 in El-Fasher alone. That is the population we're trying to reach. We have millions, I think it's about 4 million people that are on the brink of famine. And therefore, we need to access all these people throughout the country. And the famine alert is not only for Darfur, it's also for Khartoum as well, and some of the besieged cities in the Kordofan. So what we are looking for is to be able to move throughout the country. The travel time of the trucks varies depending on the truck and depending on the road conditions and our ability to pass the various checkpoints. So I can't give you a specific time.
Exactly. I ask this question because I feel if this one batch would not be enough, we'll have the second one. Since the first one has been delayed so much because of the checkpoints, the condition of the roads and blockade, how are you going to manage or to plan for another batch of convoy?
The first thing we need is to have all the impediments along the road lifted. If those are lifted, we can deploy as many trucks as we can identify, we can move them, they will turn around and we'll take more items in. And that is why our plea at this point in time is to be able to do the cross-line as well as cross-border.
Are there any other questions? Okay, yes.
Just a detail on figures of the population in El-Fasher. Maybe I'm confused, but I thought the 800,000 were displaced people living among the population. Is it the total population of El-Fasher or only the displaced population?
It's, to my understanding, the total number in El-Fasher. But what I would just also like to point out is that bear in mind that a lot of displaced people have moved into the city and have increased the population of El-Fasher. But if I'm wrong in relation to the numbers, I'll make sure that you get the corrected figure. Okay?
And Edie?
Is there any estimate of how many people have actually moved out of El-Fasher before it was surrounded to try and escape?
No, not at this point in time. Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, yes.
Could I just follow up on that? It's my understanding that there really is nowhere for them to go, even if they can leave, that there's like a big desert area or something to that effect. Could you just explain to us where if people weren't trapped in El-Fasher, if they could get out, where is the most likely safest place for them to go and how far is it?
What we have tried to do is not to identify what I would call safe areas because we have no ability to ensure that they remain safe. So we know that there are dense population groupings, there are IDP camps where the density is high, but where people can move to, where they will move to, is something that we're trying to explore and to see with the parties. I think our efforts have always been not to take the fighting to El-Fasher, given the challenges of the environment, given the difficulties in moving people along the routes, and the fact that if they do move further into the countryside, it will be very difficult for us to access them.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry it was such a somber briefing, but thank you for being here and providing this briefing. I'd like once more to thank our guest, Clementine Nkweta-Salami, and good luck as your work proceeds. And for those of you, please stay in this room. The spokesperson for the President of the General Assembly, Monica Villela-Graley, is next.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much, Farhan. We will have 3 notes and we will be done for the day.